In recent months, these rebel soldiers have had a welcome break from war. Last August, a ceasefire was signed to help tackle the devastating famine in Sudan. It brought the world's longest-running civil war to a halt across an area where 2 million people faced terrible hunger. But government forces are now accused of breaking that ceasefire in the bloody quest for oil.
Right now we are in Pariang County, north of Bentiu, the oil fields of Sudan. This area was burnt a few weeks ago by government forces who have been trying to get the public out of this area so that they can control the land and exploit the oil in this region.
In secret raids, whole villages have been burned, many left dead. Survivors claim these attacks are fueled by a modern-day gold rush in Sudan. They say the government is pursuing a bloody campaign to clear people from the oil fields. It's a scorched earth policy, and those who benefit most are foreign oil companies.
One of the deepest causes for concern coming from the West is that much of this money is actually coming from Western oil companies, and people in the West are, directly or indirectly, helping to provide the resources for the slaughter of these innocent civilians and for the kind of ravage and destruction which we witnessed yesterday.
Fighting in the oil fields has now become so bad that aid workers warn 150,000 may face starvation. There's increasingly little they can do to help.
We don't know who is at risk, who are surviving, who have been constantly displaced, sort of whether they're in a village which gets attacked, whether they're in a village which is safe. If our workers go in, they will be in danger of their lives, and if there's fighting going on, we can't take those risks.
But some aid workers are still flying into this region. We join them on an illegal flight which risks being shot down by the government. We touch down at Gumriak airstrip. It's just 30 kilometres from Bentiu, the heart of the oil fields. We're allowed just 2 hours on the ground here. It's too dangerous to stay longer. They bring a precious consignment of medical aid for the thousands in need here. They're found nearby in the bush, their only shelter, tents made of old UN aid sacks. There's little food, it's all been burned in the raids. The survivors say oil companies bear heavy responsibility. There's an estimated $45 billion worth of oil beneath South Sudan. US company Chevron first found oil here in the 80s, but was forced to withdraw when its workers were killed in fighting. Now, a group of North American, European and Asian companies are searching for oil across 12 million acres of land. Oil maps show where German and British companies have helped push a pipeline 1,500 kilometres north to the sea. The government now plans to start exporting oil by October this year. But the rebels of the south say the oil is being stolen from their lands. We're taken to see the evidence of what they claim government forces are doing to ensure that theft can continue. Just days ago, the attackers came here to Jam Jam village.
20 people killed, 38 children and women abducted.
How many homes destroyed?
Over 6,000 houses.
How many?
Over 6,000 in the whole area.
6,000 homestays, including 16 churches, chapels.
People are in the bush.
Now you can see that
People are in the bush. We'll get more people now here.
People are now starting now to rebuild.
To build now.
Michael Manuel's house is now just a pile of ashes. He describes the attack that took place.
The enemy came here to come and collect the people to go in their hand and to join them. Family, no, I took them safe. So now they are hungered, there's no food for them. The food was brought by WFP, it's not enough for them.
He takes us to the hospital where he worked as a medic. It's now a burned, blackened ruin. 3 hospitals, 16 churches, schools and 6,000 homes were burned in attacks lasting 10 days. Further on, the scorched remains of one of those churches. Local Commissioner Stephen Mabok explains the full extent of the raids.
When the enemy carried out offensives, it attacked us first by the air through Antonov and followed by gunship. This is on 9 and 10. Then on 12, the enemy came out from town in Faring, and they carried out operation offensive against the people, burning the villages and killing innocent people and abducting all the children and women. The government force that came were estimated to be 700 men, supported by tanks and heavy artillery from Padang. And from Liri, the enemy came from Liri is also estimated to be 500.
Survivors living in the bush face starvation as a direct result of this attack.
They killed one of my family, my sister. We need food, clothes, just basic things to survive.
They say the motive behind the attack is oil.
Is to exploit the oil, without any fear from the SPLA, attacks or threats in any time. So the reason for this attack is to clear the area and also to remove all the people to the town.
Canadian company Talisman Energy are a key player in the oil fields of Sudan, along with Sweden's Lundin Oil and Austria's OMV. They also have major interests in the North Sea. They're Canada's largest independent oil company, with a value of $5 billion. Off the Scottish coast, they work with major UK companies like British Gas. In a live video link-up from their Aberdeen HQ, we spoke to Talisman Chief Executive Officer Jim Buckey in Canada. He believes oil is beneficial for Sudan.
Everybody would like to see peace and prosperity in Sudan, and I believe that development in general directionally produces peace and prosperity. The Sudan is an extremely complex place, long-term bitter feuding, and obviously we hope in the longer run that the wealth generated by the oil fields will be used for the benefit of all the people in Sudan, especially those in the south.
But others in North America don't agree. Congressman Donald Payne is the head of the powerful Black Caucus in the US. He's pushing for sanctions to stop all oil exploitation in Sudan.
They kill innocent children. They go into villages and just randomly kill anyone that they find. And when there's a pariah government, when there's a government that kills its own people, that allows its children to die of starvation, that allow its women to have unheard of hardships, then it's a time that the world should act.
But Buckey denies there's oppression in the oil fields. He says very few, if any, people actually live there.
First of all, you have to see the area. It floods for half the year. So this is north of Bentiu where you were.
Yeah.
There is nothing there. You can see for as far as you can see in any direction, there isn't anything. So, and that's at Heglig, which is the central processing facility. At Unity, there are trees and so on, those sort of scrubby thorn trees, but there are no villages per se.
Our pictures appear to show otherwise, as do eyewitness testimonies from those who live here.
A lodge, village first, and kill almost 11 persons in that attacks. All of them are innocent civilians.
The main incentive in this area for the government, as far as the government is concerned, is really they want the land so that they can do their oil exploration freely without any encumbrance from the local people who would like to resist the exploitation of their resources. This was a church compound. The food stores, the accommodation was burnt down in the whole area, including schools.
Despite such reports of government abuses, Buckey admits they do rely on the Sudanese military for their security.
We rely on the government security forces from the government of Sudan. To date, we've had no serious incidents in the area, and we're confident that the government has the wherewithal to defend provide security, I should say, around the operations and pipeline.
If there are abuses, he disputes whether the government is involved. It's clearly a cosy relationship, as the government admits oil revenues will be used to produce arms. Oil analyst Dennis Bennett has studied Sudan's industry closely.
Who do you believe? Do you believe the words of the underpaid, overworked, on-the-ground humanitarian organization workers who are saying there's killing going on and who are showing the evidence in the videotapes of the killing and the genocide? Do you believe what the government of Sudan is saying about this oil is just for the benefit of the southern peoples? Or if you look at what the oil is actually being used for as collateral against loans to purchase other things such as heavy weapon systems from China, from Malaysia, from Russia, and heavy weapon system, I mean bombers, gunships.
And it's just such weapons that were used in the attacks. We're shown where villagers hid from raids by Antonov planes and helicopter gunships.
When there was Antonov bombing, I have to bring my children inside here and go under the ground. They have to be in shelter, because when there is a bombardment, children can be saved like this. And we have nearly to close it. I was nearly to close it, had a hole, and put the sun on it.
The victims of the air raids were innocent civilians. We're shown the craters and the shrapnel left by bombing. And do you know how many people died?
Yeah, there were 5 in Akusan children, plus 2 women.
So there were 5 children and 2 women?
Yeah, killed by Antonovs.
Just days before these raids, Sudanese commander Stephen Thong defected from the government. He came with all 200 men in his unit. They're still wearing their Sudanese army uniforms. He says he came to help defend civilians here from government attacks designed to seize the oil fields.
Today, when we observed that the Sudan government is going to take back the oil, we went and stopped the oil exploration. Anyway, nobody will come and take your cows for milking in another area while it is yours. So you have to milk your cows. If you are cooking your food and once somebody else come and take it by force, that they will eat it and chase you away. Could you accept that? So that is the reason I'm resisting that oil. It is one of my sources in the area, alive, and it is in my region. So I could not accept the taking of petrol by force by Sudan government.
He points out the spent machine gun cartridges where government soldiers opened fire on civilians. We have had them examined by top arms experts in the UK. They are Chinese made for use with the Russian PK Dragunov machine gun. We then took them to a colonel from the Sudanese military. He now lives in exile and wanted to remain anonymous. He used the Dragunov machine gun when he was in the army, and he would be 90% certain these bullets were fired by government troops.
They are not going to show you the genocide, and they're not going to say that they're bombing hospitals. We found out after the war that there were the gas chambers, there were the ovens in Nazi Germany, and I'm afraid that we're going to find out too late that American mutual fund money and British and Canadian investor money is being used to finance genocide in Sudan. Certainly,
Talisman's operations in the West are exemplary. The company has a stake in the Witch Farm oil field, operated by BP. It's an award-winning social and environmental oil project. Talisman's Bucky says their facilities in Sudan are run to equally high standards. Security measures in the Sudan appear a little different to those employed here in the UK. The Sudanese government has now slapped a ban on all flights into the region, critics say to stop the killings in the oil fields being exposed. The UN fears a resulting humanitarian catastrophe to rival last year's famine.
Well, we're looking at an extremely alarming and fragile situation at the moment. For months and months now, tens of thousands of people have been the victim of war. And now with this flight ban being imposed, it means that aid agencies have no way of getting in to feed these people and help the people that have been suffering for months. It really is the last straw in an already difficult situation.
We cross swollen rivers on the route back to the airstrip. The rains have now begun in earnest here. The UN's worst fear is that thousands have fled into the huge Sudanese swamps for safety. It's a massive disaster in the making.
Many thousands of people have gone to seek safety in the swamps, and that really is very, very alarming indeed, because at the moment it's a rainy season, and if people go to hide in the swamps, they're at high risk of contracting malaria. There are absolutely no medical facilities whatsoever.
The rebel Sudan People's Liberation Army claim that oil companies have blood on their hands. The rebels have repeatedly warned them to pull out of Sudan. They say the oil companies rely on government forces to secure the oil fields, regardless of the methods used.
The attacks on the civil population is part and parcel of the government military strategy. It's part of jihad, and it is this is allowed in terms of their strategy. So they have been doing this. Their forces consist of regular troops, of what they call mujahideen, of what they call morhalin, and all this target the civil population. In Ruang country, this is where the oil is, and so they want to depopulate that area.
Western companies may see money flowing from the oil fields of Sudan, but the thousands of civilians who fled into the swamps wouldn't agree. The question the world community should now ask is what price the people here will be forced to pay for oil.